I have a few friends that suffer from POTS and things like that, and that was found a few that were very interesting.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's the purpose of Healthful Heroes, is to share individual journeys, hopefully inspire others on their journeys, and hopefully that way we can help each other. It's kind of the goal. So thank you so much for taking the time today. What are the different conditions that you have?
Oh, what a question. I literally have a list that I have to talk to the doctors about.
Okay.
I suffer from fibromyalgia, so a pain condition, also chronic fatigue, which is great. Depressive disorder, emotional dysregulation, which is a offset of what people assume to be what am I looking for? Multiple personalities. It's not actually called that anymore. It's basically like it's an offset of it, where almost like bipolar, in the sense that you have a very hard time regulating your emotions.
Sure.
Extreme anxiety, PTSD, agoraphobia. So agoraphobia is a fear of large spaces, but it basically means that I'm scared of humans. So I get very anxious in public and things like that. I can't take public transport, which is quite difficult.
Yes.
um,
And you live in London, is that correct? Or
I live about 30 minutes from London, so I'm quite lucky. I live in a little village, so it's quiet. But yeah, the main sort of, currently study musical theatre, which is quite an odd offset. I'm going into social work, but I did it for the confidence boost, and I fell in love with it. And I think everyone should try some form of it, because it isn't just acting. It teaches you confidence, it teaches you how to talk, it teaches you how to not be just in your own head. Like, it's still hard, but it definitely helped. Dissociative disorder as well, which again is an offset of sort of the multiple personality sort of thing, where I don't know how, do you ever sort of blank out and you go, oh, I've done the dishes, because it's such a normal thing to do? That's the same concept as dissociative disorder, in the sense that you sort of just blank out and go through life's easy bits, and then come back to yourself, sort of wake up and go, oh, okay. Non-epileptic seizures, that links to the anxiety, actually. Polycystic ovaries, so fun. Suicidal tendencies, which again links to the depression and everything. So it's a lot.
yes,
But
it's
it's
hard.
it all sort of links together. And a lot of the issues, like with fibromyalgia and things, a lot of the issues come with that. So you're more likely to suffer from some form of depression, some form of anxieties because of them. You're more susceptible. And it's the same, like polycystic ovaries is linked to certain things, like migraines, things like that. Everything sort of interlinks
Sure.
to a main problem, and it's very odd. It's the same with actually fibromyalgia. If you have depression, you're a lot more at risk to it, because it's basically your brain misinterpreting signals.
Okay.
So like my muscles spasm and cause me a lot of pain,
Sure.
but it's not actually pain that you should be feeling. It's your brain telling you there's pain, so your body reacts. So it's a very odd thing to describe to people when they go, oh, what's your condition? And you go, well, technically it's not real, but it is,
It
because
is
you still feel the pain, but it's
absolutely.
a mental sort of block, if that makes sense. It's very strange. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the brain is the most complex thing that we don't understand enough of, and so I can completely appreciate that all of these conditions are ultimately connected. Why don't we start sort of at the beginning? Sort of, what were the earliest things that you noticed, and what made you start to reach out to seek help? Because it sounds like you've been through quite the journey, and if we
Yeah.
could start from where it all began.
Well, I think the first time I ever knew I wasn't quite the same as everyone else, um, I think I was probably I started self-harming when I was about 8, which is very young, but like everything sort of, my parents are great, let me put that out there. My parents are amazing. But unfortunately, my mum was too nice. And she let a cousin of mine come and live with us because his family wasn't great. And this cousin was the one that abused me. So it was a sort of response to that. Like I wanted to be in control. So if I was gonna be in pain anyway, I wanted to be that person controlling that pain. So I started self-harming. That would be the anxiety sort of started when I was diagnosed when I was 12, but obviously it would have started before that because everything came out when I was 12. Because I told a friend who then told the school, who then told my family, and it all sort of snowballed from there. So yeah, my first instance of anything like being diagnosed with anything would have been when I was 12 because someone else sort of went forward. And looking back on it, like it hurt when it happened because I didn't want anyone to know, but I'm glad it did, and I wish I would have come forward first. But it's like what everyone says with abuse and things, it's quite like it's very easy to blame yourself, or it's very easy to be manipulated into thinking this is normal or you can't talk about this because it's a secret. Even like my mum used to say to me all the time, if anyone ever touches you, if anyone ever hurts you, you tell me, I will never blame you. But it's, I don't know, it's a block in your brain where you go, I don't want to be seen like that. I don't want to be that person that happened to. Like, if I ignore it, it will stop. If I pretend it didn't happen, it didn't happen. So yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry you went through that.
Sorry.
And you got diagnosed. What type of clinician diagnosed you, and did they give you anything that helped?
When I was, like I said, when I was 12, it's a bit odd, because I didn't actually get, the police got involved and things like that, and I was offered help, but it wasn't really any help. It was just sort of talking to someone. Like, that does help, don't get me wrong, therapy does help, but this wasn't really a therapist. This was almost a school counselor, if that makes sense. And it just kept sort of, my mental health just kept snowballing because everything was out, so I didn't have any control anymore. And everything sort of just kept snowballing until I tried to commit suicide. And I think I was either 12 or 13. I've tried multiple times, but I've only been hospitalized twice. And the first time was around that age. And that's when they sort of realized, which is a bit odd, and I don't know why it shouldn't take that happening for them to realize, like I was already self-harming at that young age and things. It shouldn't have taken that long for them to realize, oh, this child probably needs some help. But it did. I had to be in hospital. They got into, in the UK, there's a system called CAMS, and it's basically, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically child mental health. And I got into them, and I got a CAMS officer, which was an actual therapist, and I was able to speak with him, and it helped. I did cognitive behavioural therapy, so CBT, which helped. I suffered terribly from night terrors, so I'd just wake up, and the amount of times I'd wake my parents up in the middle of the night and just tears and having panic attacks. But it helped with that sort of, the process of boxing things in your brain so it doesn't attack you all at once. Like, I still know their memories, I still feel that pain, but I know it's not there. Like, I know it's not now. I know it's something, which is hard to do with PTSD because obviously flashbacks make you feel like it's there.
Sure.
But yeah, I got in it. It took me trying to kill myself to get help.
Shouldn't get that far for sure.
No, and then I got a medium level of help, but I didn't really, I don't know how to explain it. I didn't really, because at that young age you don't really understand therapy, and you're going because you have to, because your parents send you. So I wasn't really engaging as much as I could. It helped, but
Mm-hmm.
and then it took me again trying to kill myself when I was about 14 for them to really go, oh, maybe we should try medication, because in the UK they don't really like medicating people under the age of 16, which makes sense.
Sure.
Need medication. There's no point. Like, there's no point putting you full of drugs that you're going to eventually have to wean yourself off of. But yeah, eventually like I said, tried to commit suicide again, and I went to the hospital because my friend had found me actually in the school bathroom, very not okay.
Sure.
And we went to the hospital again, and finally they sort of said, do you want to try medication? And I'd never been offered it before, and I'd asked, but they'd obviously told me, because I knew something was wrong. Like, I didn't know about imbalances in the brain or anything like that, but I knew this therapy wasn't the only thing helping. But I think you'll find, especially at a young age and being female, a lot of things will be passed off as emotion, like she's emotional, she's overreacting, that sort of thing. And it happens a lot. It's a thing that has been documented quite. It's the same as being a different race. You'll be treated differently because people will assume different things about you. So finally, I got medicated. Yeah, I don't know, it helped. I talked to people. Like I'm still in contact with different people that helped me, specialists, sort of, because I was only diagnosed with anxiety when I was younger. Anxiety, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a mild form of depression.
Okay.
When I was younger, and I finally got the diagnosis of, oh, she has PTSD. Even though I had all the symptoms, even though I was having flashbacks, even though the doctors had seen me in these episodes, it was, oh, she's overreacting, until it got again to that point of me trying to kill myself, and they went, oh, maybe she's not overreacting, maybe this is affecting her. And I was finally diagnosed with PTSD. I was finally given the correct medication. I was finally given the correct therapy. And it wasn't easy, but it helped, and I got through it. I finished my studies at that age. It was good because I didn't even want to live at that point. But yeah, it was finally okay.
So it sounds like, from 8 to 14, I mean, that's quite a few years to live with an unbearable situation. And you finally got helped when you were 14, thankfully. Do you remember the types of treatments that you were finally given? Was it the combination of the CBT and these medications that ultimately helped? And what was your experience with these medications, and how did they help you?
Well, medication is a weird thing, and looking back on it, at the time I was annoyed that it didn't work straight away. Obviously, it's not going to, but I was 14, finally getting medicated, and I was angry that this isn't working. I still feel depressed. I still feel suicidal. I still feel these exact same feelings. And it took me, actually, I believe it was 5 times I had to change my medication until I found one that worked for me. And it's a tedious task. Like, it's really annoying that not all medications like do what they say on the tin, if that makes sense. So I can only remember 2 of them, but I tried so many different medications, like I said, 5, until I finally found one, paroxetine, that worked for me. And it's that trial and error, as much as it sucks, and it really does suck, because you're going to go, I got nauseous, I was vomiting daily, some of them made me feel worse, some of them made me more anxious and depressed, but you just got to keep trying to find a medication that works for you, and not assume that every medication will fit you, because it won't. And it's the same with therapy, though. Not every therapy will work. Some people, therapy doesn't work at all. And I'd say to everyone, even if you're like atypical and everything, take like that chance to decompress yourself. Having someone to talk to that isn't, like, most people can agree that talking to another human being is very cathartic. But talking to another human being that has no influence in your life, that you have no fear will judge you and no fear of repercussions of them telling someone else, is so much more cathartic. Like, you can tell them your strange thoughts. Intrusive thoughts was a thing that I struggled with a lot because my brain was in such a dark place that I thought constantly, oh, I wonder if I could jump in front of this bus. And then it got to, sometimes I'd be like, oh, there's a toddler there, I could probably kick him. And that sounds horrible. And I wasn't going to do it. But because my brain was so anxious and paranoid, I thought I was a bad person because of those thoughts. And being able to talk to someone through those thoughts and them not go, you wanted to kick a toddler, that's disgusting. They'd go, no, that's a very normal process. Your brain went, you could do that, but that would be wrong. And that's fine. And it's the same concept as when people go, oh, that dog's cute, I could probably steal him. I'm not going to, because that's a bad thing to do, but that's a very cute dog. And it's a very odd concept, and most people will have intrusive thoughts at some point, and it's just a fact of life. You'll have a weird thought and you'll go, oh, that was weird. But being able to go to a therapist and have the talking method, as it's known, really does help everyone. It's the same with marriage, relationships, family. Just being able to talk in an environment that isn't a structured environment, if that makes sense. Like, there's no barriers. You're allowed to be free and you're allowed to say everything that's bothering you, and it's not a direct attack on anyone or yourself. And this person can filter through it and give you an unbiased view. But hearing you're not insane from someone is really helpful when you are a bit worried you are. It's taken me actually up until this year to finally be able to admit, oh, by the way, sometimes I hear voices. And because I didn't want to be that kind of crazy, if that makes sense. But it's actually a very normal thing for people to have happen to them, even if they're atypical. But especially if you have anxiety, it's very normal to have occasionally a voice in your brain that isn't your own just sort of pop up, or you can hear it and it's like somewhere else, and it's just part of human beings' brains. But it's been so sensationalized in media and things and everything and movies that if you hear voices, you're absolutely nuts, you must be schizophrenic, and you're not. There's nothing bad with being schizophrenic. It's very misunderstood, but I don't know, people seem to think that everything, take for gospel, especially with mental health, that everything they see or read about is true. And I mean, it's not. And it's the same concept behind, you're a lot more likely to be a victim if you have mental health issues than you are if you don't. But people have that fear still ingrained in them of, oh, that's a crazy person, they're probably going to want to hurt you. You're like, no, they're not. They're probably a lot more safe than you are because they have their issues dealt with and you don't.
Absolutely. And so, it strikes me that, it takes a lot of courage to get the right type of help. And the stigma that you're talking about, the misunderstanding, you mentioned, when I was younger, it was hysteria, and later on, folks just don't connect with it or understand it, and so it makes it that much more difficult for individuals to seek the help that they need. So completely understand the importance of the message that you're delivering, which is to ensure that you are reaching out for the help and going through the talk therapy as you described it,
and just knowing in yourself that you're not wrong. The amount of doctors that told me I was overreacting or that it wasn't this. It's the same with my fibro or my polycystic ovaries. I was told, oh, it's normal to have that bad a period. Oh, it's normal to be in that much pain. Oh, you've just done too much. You're hurting because you've ran too much, or you've done too much, or you blah 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 blah, etc. And it takes a lot of effort, and it will break you down. The amount of times I just cried because people weren't taking me seriously. But you will eventually, if you keep trying, find the correct doctor who will listen to you. I had to go through the majority of my doctors at my local practice until I found one that actually listened to me and wasn't. It was surprising as much as, because again, everyone has ingrained biases. I would assume in myself that a female doctor would be more likely to understand me. But it actually turned out I went through all the doctors, some female, some male, and actually I found the doctor who actually listened to me, and he was male. And I wasn't expecting that from him. And again, it's just a normal thing because I wasn't expecting him to understand mental health of females, or the fact that my periods shouldn't be this bad, or that pain is normal to have this level of pain. He finally sort of went, no, none of this is correct. I don't know what they were talking about. Let's get you tested. And like, I went through at least 10 doctors and it sucked. It took me 4 years to be diagnosed with any form of pain condition. 4 years of me crying to doctors and being told I'm overreacting. But yeah, you just got to keep going. Like it will suck. It will hurt. You will cry. You will feel defeated. But eventually you'll get that validation of you're not making this up. Your feelings and your pain and your suffering is valid, and you're not overreacting. Even for anything, it just, I don't know, it boggles my mind how many people will just throw something to the wayside and assume you're overreacting. I have a friend who suffered from migraines, which is a very well-known condition, and she was just told she was getting headaches. She was like, I can't see, and the doctor still was saying to her, oh, it's just a headache. She was like, I can't physically see. It was very strange.
No, that's and it's a common experience, unfortunately. So when would you say that the pain became so bad that you went through this process, that the 4-year journey to get a more accurate diagnosis?
Well, the pain started to manifest. Like, I've always had issues when I was a kid, but I was really active. I just assumed bumps, bruises. It's how I hid the abuse and everything. I was a tomboy, so I did everything. So it was easy to be like, oh, why do you have a massive bruise on your leg? Oh, I fell out of a tree. Like, that wasn't unknown. So I was always in some form of pain. And then my first year of college, so I was 16, 17. And college in the UK is the end of high school in the US. So I was in college and I did performing arts because I fell in love with them in school because of a counsellor who said, because I used to be so quiet, I was scared of everything, and I fell in love with drama because it gave me that confidence. I could hide behind someone and I could be someone that I wanted to be. And then I went into performing arts and I started to realise, oh, I'm in a lot of pain. It was gradual in the sense of, like, at first I thought I was just getting the flu a lot, which sounds strange, but fibromyalgia is very flu-like symptoms. You'll get a headache, your glands sometimes will swell, you'll get dry mouth, your bones will ache, your muscles will hurt a bit more. So I just assumed I was getting sick a lot. And then it didn't stop. It just sort of, I'd have bouts of it for a little while, and then I'd be okay. And then I'd have longer bouts, and I think ignoring it was wrong. It was a bad decision. But again, I didn't even know fibromyalgia was a thing until I went to the doctors. It was my first year of uni, so I went through college, got the equivalent to a high school diploma, sort of feeling this pain, thinking it was normal-ish. I just thought I was, I don't know. At first I thought it was flu, then I thought I had a bad immune system. There was a moment actually that I got tested because I kept getting nosebleeds, which is strangely an offset, like eye trouble and having nosebleeds is an offset of it. But I didn't know at the time. So I got my blood tested, and I remember the doctor telling me, and I still don't understand why they said it this way, but the doctor told me you either have anemia or leukemia, because of how bad my white blood cell was. That's all that was said to me, and I obviously freaked out.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, those two things are very different.
Yes, those are not the same.
They're very different things, and luckily I had anemia, but I was still, it took it took 2 weeks of me freaking out, thinking I had a form of blood cancer. And then finally I was told I have anemia. And so it was very strange. So I took that anemia as what was wrong with me. Oh, I'm tired because I have low iron. Oh, my body hurts because my iron is bad. I have an iron deficiency. Just keep taking your pills. It'll be fine. And then I came to university. I got through my first year quite well. I struggled a bit because of my depression and everything, and the pain was setting in. And I think halfway through my first year is when I really went, this pain isn't normal. I'd lived with it. I was fine with it. And then I realised, I think because I'm such an antisocial person, and all of my friends are quite similar in that sense, that we'll sit in a room together and read a book in silence. That's the type of person I am. So when you go to university, and obviously you can drink at the age of 18 here, and people are like, oh, let's go clubbing, let's go party, let's do this. And I was like, oh, I'm too tired to do that. And they were like, what are you talking about? Oh, no, if I dance all night, I won't be okay for like 3 days. And they were like, what are you talking about? And I just sort of went, oh, I have anemia. And then someone went, yeah, that's not normal. I have anemia. I take my blood irons and I'm fine. And I went, oh, really? You're not tired all the time? You don't get pains? You don't find it hard to walk for longer than like 10 minutes? And this girl just went, no, I take my blood iron things, tablets, and I'm exactly the same. And it was that sort of moment where I went, oh, this isn't normal.
Wow.
So the doctors had told me these symptoms were normal and the tablets would help. And when I told them they weren't helping, oh, it's fine, it's just your body getting used to it. And it took me being told by someone else who suffered from anemia, no, that's not normal, rather than the doctors, for me to go back. And it took me until the start of my third year, so until the start of this year, to finally get diagnosed properly. And I just kept having to go back to the doctor, and just kept having to go back and being told, oh, we'll do tests, we'll try this, we'll do this, we'll try, maybe you've got this, maybe, and it just took so many times until I finally broke down. And again, I found the correct doctor to go, oh, that's not normal. Like, do you have this symptom? Does this happen to you? Oh, okay, because fibromyalgia can't be tested for. It's more of some doctors describe it as a we don't know diagnosis, in the sense, whereas some doctors believe it to be a real thing in its own. So some doctors believe that it's a condition that we just don't know about yet, and we don't have the technology to understand it yet. And some doctors believe that it's, again, the majority of it is in your brain. But yeah, it took me years. It took me 2.5 years of me going back and forth to the doctors, explaining my pain symptoms, the amount of time, especially if you've been diagnosed with a mental health problem or any other condition, they will say it's that.
Sure.
They will go, oh, it's your anxiety causing you pain. Oh, it's the reason you sleep for 3 days after doing something is your depression. You're tired all the time because you're depressed. It's the amount of times I've been told, just, oh, it's your anxiety. Oh, it's your depression. And I think a lot of people don't seem to understand that you can have more than one thing wrong with you. It's a lot to deal with. Like, one of my friends always jokes, if you get one more thing wrong with you, I'm out. And I always laugh because that's our type of humour. But it is very, like, having a long list of things wrong with you is very daunting, but it's a lot easier to deal with if you know what you're fighting. Like, I know that it's not my depression that makes me tired, which actually helps my depression, because a lot of the times if you get into a cycle of depression, it just drags you deeper and deeper. So knowing that I'm not losing that fight to depression because I'm tired because of my chronic fatigue and my fibro, helps a lot. Knowing that something called fibro fog, it makes you really forgetful, and sometimes it's quite similar to dissociation. So knowing that because I dissociate, it doesn't necessarily mean it's that. It could be my fibro fog. I could have forgot something because I was in too much pain to remember it. It really helps you understand that you're not ruined, if that makes sense. Like, you're not broken in the sense of there's no point trying to help you, if that makes sense. Like, the amount of times.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense to me, that by understanding yourself more, you're able to overcome that much more comprehensively by thinking about all the different things. Emma-Louise, thank you so much. Your journey, the depth of your sharing, that's what a hero is in my mind. And so I wanted to thank you for sharing. I am absolutely certain that someone looking at this video in the future will see a little bit of themselves in your story and will hopefully come to solutions that much more quickly. So thank you so much, Emma-Louise,
Yeah.
and we'll talk again soon. I will.
The same goes for you. Thank you so much. I'm excited. Your videos are really happy, like made me happy.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Emma-Louise. Take care, and we'll be in touch.
Later.
So we're continuing on the journey, and I'm just going to recap a bit of my understanding, and I viewed a little bit of the last conversation that we had. To recap, you've been diagnosed with anxiety, agoraphobia, dissociative disorder, polycystic ovaries, fibromyalgia. And so we're at a point in your journey where we were starting to talk about how you've managed to start seeking treatment and help, and look forward to hearing from you regarding how you've managed through.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so it took me a long time. I was trying to think in my brain then how many years, but it took me a long time to fully realize that my fibro was a thing, if that makes sense. Because like I said last time, you go to the doctor and you've got a pre-existing mental health condition, everything will be that condition. You could be bleeding, you could have lost your hand, and they'd go, no, it's fine, don't worry, it's just your mental health. And you go, I don't think that is, but okay. So it took a lot of going to the doctors, telling them all of this, saying it was different, explaining that the fatigue was very different. Like, it's a different feeling of, like, I know I can get up, but I'm too sad to get up, to I can't physically move. So a lot of going to the doctors and feeling I got, because of my mental health issues, I got into my head at one point. I just sort of went, oh my God, am I hypochondriac? Like, I really thought at one point, because I was going to the doctors and they were telling me nothing, like, it's normal, this is just your mental health. I really thought at one point that it was. And it was only at the point where I was fully breaking down. I was having a panic attack. What my friend likes to call a kitchen floor reset, where you're in your mum's kitchen, you're just on the floor crying. And it took me to that point of my mum going, no, this isn't your mental health. You are in physical pain. And going back to the doctors and having that advocate, which was my mother in this instance. And I've actually started to become that advocate for some of my friends and people I know. Because I know that until someone turns around to a doctor and goes, no, you're not taking this seriously, listen to what they're saying, they'll just brush it over. And I know it's not their fault, they're busy, not everything can be diagnosed very quickly and things like that. But yeah, it's good to have that advocate with you to go, no, excuse me, you're not listening to what they're saying, and push forward. Yeah, so I think it took me about 2 years from like noticing it was an issue more than like, because you can deal with pains and aches every now and again, but ongoing 2 years of noticing this isn't going away, and going to the doctors and talking to them, and finally it took me about 2 years. I got
neurologist.
Yeah. For some reason I was thinking, so I had my brain scanned, I had all my blood work done. They'll try and rule out everything before they'll give you a diagnosis of fibro, because it's such a iffy thing. I had my blood taken about 30 times. I had my brain scanned. Nothing wrong with it, yay. Well, bar the mental health issues, but nothing physically wrong with it. I had a CAT scan. That was very strange. So I had an MRI and I had a CAT scan. Very different.
Describe the difference between the two for folks.
Yeah, so an MRI is, from what I can remember, isolated. Like, they pick one part and sort of do it, if that makes sense. And it's a lot, I'm trying to remember, one of them's really loud. But the good thing is, because I'm a fidgety person and you're in a confined space, for both of them, you'll be in a confined space. You shouldn't move. Sometimes they'll ask you to hold your breath, things like that, for like 20 seconds. They'll tell you when it's about to start. You get given a squidgy rubber ball, and it's basically a panic burn. So you have that out, which is nice. So if you're too worried, or if you start panicking, or if something goes wrong, you can tell them something's wrong because they can't hear you. You can hear them though, which is really helpful. So they tell you everything. They go, this is going to be for 1 minute, and then you'll hear clicking starting. Sometimes it will be a buzzing noise. It's very invasive, like it's very loud. I have low sensory issues, and it was kind of quite bad for me. So if you have sensory issues, you can, like, they give you earplugs because of how loud it is, but you can hear it through them. So if you have sensory issues, it is probably not something you want to do. But it is worth doing, getting that clean bill of health. There's no tumours, there's nothing wrong, you've got no blocked pathways or anything. It was nice knowing that I didn't have to have my head cut open.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they'll also, what's something that's very nice is that as long as there's no metal, so you can't take anything metal in, so I had to take all my piercings out, can't wear glasses, things like that. But as long as there's no metal in it, you can take something with you. So I took one of my squidgy anxiety relieving things, because I knew I'd fidget, and it's good because they give you something that's perfect to squeeze, but that's a panic button. So if you bring something else that you can squeeze, it helps. But yeah, so they'll go, this one's for 30 seconds and you can count along with the ticks. This one's for 2 minutes. And they're basically just warning you, stay as still as you can. Yeah. And I think I only had to hold my breath twice for one of them, but I think it's because they did a scan from like my chest up. So they wanted to check that there was nothing sort of wrong with my like airways and stuff as well, like maybe neck and the circulatories where the spine meets the brain. So yeah, it's not something I'd want to do again, but it's worth doing. And obviously in the UK I'm quite blessed because healthcare is free here, so I didn't have to pay out of pocket or anything for that, which was very nice.
And so so was that the point at which they said, okay, you have fibromyalgia, or was there something else they had to do?
Once I started my non-epileptic seizures is when I had my CAT scan and then my MRI and everything. And that was just after. They thought I'd had fibromyalgia, but they weren't entirely sure. So this was in between. What it took to get my diagnosis was going in, having all the tests they told me to do, ruling everything else out, and just going, okay, this is not going away on its own. What is wrong with me? And I was given chronic fatigue as one of mine, and then I was given fibromyalgia because one of my main issues, which is why I started going in the first place, because I could deal with the pain. I just assumed I was getting achy. I thought I'd had the flu for a few months, was the tiredness. And this wasn't a depression tiredness, this was a bone deep sluggishness that it took all my effort to move. Like to go to the bathroom, I'd be tired. And that's really what started my issues. And so they do obviously everything. So they check for anemia, which ironically I have. So when they were like, oh, we'll see if you have anemia, I was like, I do have anemia. This isn't that. Again, it's one of those, if you have pre-existing, be aware they will tell you, oh, it's that. And you go, no, I don't think it is. It is quite hard because you want to take a doctor's word as gospel. But a lot of the times they're seeing a lot of people, they're busy, they'll have their own agendas, they'll just sort of, a lot of people will assume you're overreacting. Like we talked about last time, being female, they'll assume it's to do with that and it's hormone changes, and you'll have to keep trying unless you find a good one. Like it took me 2 years to find a doctor who was, well, it looked at my chart and just sort of went, oh yeah, this isn't right. This isn't normal. Let's work this out. It took me 3 years to find that doctor. So,
how many doctors would you say you went to see?
Well, in the UK, we have general practice practitioners, and they typically stay within one or two or franchised. It's like inpatient. They're not hospitals, but they're like clinics would be the right word. But yeah, we just call them the GP, or the doctors. And it's usually has an attached pharmacy and everything with it. So we have doctors between two practices, between this village and a village that's about 20 minutes away. And between both of them, there's probably about 30 doctors rostering in and out. And I honestly would say I saw about 25 of them. I went through a lot of doctors. Originally I started with all the female ones because I assumed if I'm female, they'll understand me more. Maybe it's to do with those issues, things like that. It took me, like I said, it took me ages. And when I finally went in to see this doctor, he was male. I had my own prejudice sort of thing against it. I'd seen so many doctors, I didn't think he was going to believe me. He was male, he was middle-aged, and I was just like, great, this is going to be another doctor that's going to fob me off and tell me, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, you're fine. Stop overreacting. And I told him everything, and I was really surprised, and I feel bad now because obviously you just make that assumption about someone automatically, especially if you've had experience in it. But he was just so helpful, so lovely, and he just went, yeah, let's sort this out. This is not okay. We did it. We did all the tests, blood tests, everything. I think he knew what was wrong with me. Like he said from day one, I think I know what's wrong with you, but we have to do these tests to rule everything else out, just in case it's something a bit more serious, like a blood clot or things like that. So yeah, I think as soon as I told him my issues, I think he just sort of went, this is going to be this, but just in case.
Was there any specific issue that resonated with him to indicate fibromyalgia?
It was the way I described it. A lot of people describe fibromyalgia as, and I didn't know this until afterwards, but as on almost like extreme flu pain. It's like your bones ache. It's quite similar to arthritis in the pain situation, which is why older people will genuinely be diagnosed with arthritis rather than fibromyalgia. But yeah, the way I described it, he said, was when he got the inkling that it was to do with my brain, but it wasn't my mental illness, because I was in physical pain. My muscles have a tendency, not luckily, but at the same time, quite luckily, my muscles were twitching that day, which is a reason why fibromyalgia causes so much pain, because your brain sending the wrong signals. So my muscles will contract and just twitch a lot. So they're being overused, but not in the way they should be. So they're not actually gaining any muscle, they're just being overused, so it hurts. And luckily, when I went to see him that day, my muscles were twitching, and he noticed this and went, and obviously when I explained it to him that this was an issue, so yeah, my muscle twitching and my the description of it, the flu-like, downtrodden in the sense of like that sense where you're just defeated, and genuine pain that painkillers doesn't stop. Sure. Because it's a very odd thing, because it's a really delicate way of saying it. It's not legitimate pain. You are in pain, you are feeling that pain, but there's nothing there causing it. So it's not like I have a nail in my hand or I've broken my knee. It's so the painkillers don't actually stop any of the neurons that are like telling you. So yeah, stronger ones will take the edge off. So I take Zapan, which is an offset of, I believe, codeine. And I know someone else with quite a severe case of it is morphine, which is obviously but yeah, a lot of it will take the edge off, but you're always going to be in pain. And I know that sucks, but Like the best way to handle it will be meditation. It sounds honest. It's for anyone that's not new agey, it's going to sound very hippie-ish, but they are honestly the best ways to handle it. Is hot water. Like I said, I bought a hot tub because hot water helps so much. Swimming, because it puts no strain on you. So you're not going to add to your own pain. So yeah, so exercise that doesn't add to the pain. Yoga is really, I do yoga every morning because your muscles contract so much, it makes your joints really stiff. If that makes, like, you'll wake up in the first few hours of every day will probably be the worst, but continuously throughout the day you'll have pain, but the first few hours are usually the worst because you've been in a set position for so long. So everything's contracted and everything's had a chance to pull itself in more. So yeah, yoga really helps. Just stretching, normal stretching helps. Hot baths, showers.
First of all, it sounds like you had a tremendous journey just to get to the point where someone would listen intently to your issues and not dismiss them, which is unfortunate. But now that you've finally gotten someone to pay attention, it sounds like they took you seriously. They ran the right levels of tests. They gave you the right diagnosis. And so you were then able to start to manage it in the right way. And it sounds like you are on painkillers. Are you taking them regularly? And are you concerned at all about painkillers? As I understand, they could be a little bit addictive, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I actually have quite an addictive personality, so I was really worried about it. Like I've always been worried about getting addicted to anything really, because addiction runs in my family, not in the sense of drugs or things like that, but overindulgence is a thing that my family is bad at. So I didn't want to run the risk, so I put off taking medication as much as possible. I did it with my mental health as well. I was so against taking medication because I thought, oh no, I'll be able. In all honesty, my brain sort of went, it's okay, it will sort itself out, even though that's not how a medical condition works, but you can trick yourself into thinking anything. So yeah, I actually have a sorter. It's more there's morning and nighttime ones, and it's from Monday to Sunday, so obviously throughout the week. Because I take a lot. So I take a non-addictive. It's like the big brother to ibuprofen.
Okay.
And it's non-addictive, but it can cause stomach upset. And obviously I have IBS, so I have to take a stomach tablet with that. And for polycystic ovaries, Sorry, I have a dog next to me who's decided to itch. Okay, bud, you done? Thank you. So yeah, I take the pill for that, so I have to take that every day. And because of my mental stuff, if I didn't get my box, I would just forget. I would honestly, my brain would just go, we probably took our drugs today, and then I would not be okay. But yeah, I take my IBS medication.
And for folks, what are you taking for the IBS?
Oh, I take a peppermint supplement from the doctors, and oh God, I don't know what it's called. How do I not know what it's called? A lot of medication.
No.
But I take I think it's a muscle relaxant. But I take them about an hour before I eat. So the peppermint soothes, and the muscle relaxant obviously helps everything. But yeah, so I take them, and I take, like I said, Zapan, which is an addictive substance, but I'm very diligent with it, and that's why it's good if you are on any form of medication. Really, that's to be taken regularly, to get some form of pill sortie or pill caddy, just for the fact that you are able to see how much you're consuming of it. If you just got it in a little pill bottle, it doesn't matter, because once it's done, you go refill it. You put it in that caddy, you go, oh, I've taken 3 today, I probably shouldn't take another.
Sure.
So I put 1 in the morning, 1 at night, and I always have a just in case on me, because you can have a flare up, or you can something can go wrong. But I try and stick to 1 in the morning, 1 at night normally. But a lot of the times you have to take another during the day. Zapan is stronger. So I was on codeine before, which is, again, very addictive. But Zapan is stronger, which is why I'm so diligent with it. I also take amitriptyline, which is, a muscle relax. Well, it's technically not a muscle relaxant, but it has that side effect.
Okay.
Which is why they give it to me. And it also helps you sleep. So I take that at night. And if I didn't take it at night, I wouldn't be able to wake up properly, because it helps you relax throughout the night. Otherwise, again, like I said, everything's so tight and strained, it wouldn't be able to move. And yeah, I take naproxen, which is the ibuprofen's big brother. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Okay. And for the anxiety and depression?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I take paroxetine, which helped me. It took me a long time to be able to find the correct drug. It's the same with everything, though. You're going to feel sick on something. One gave me really bad side pain to the point I was worried I had appendicitis. But I think it took me 4 times. So it took me about 4 months, because they give you usually a few weeks to a month to try it out, because a lot of the time side effects will go away within 2 weeks, because it's just getting into your system. But yeah, I just couldn't get along with about 4 of them. I did it the same with the pill as well, and a lot of my medications actually, where it just wouldn't agree with me, or the side effects weren't worth the outcome. So you just trial and error. It's very annoying, because again, you're in pain, you just want something to take it away, but unfortunately there's not a miracle cure-all. But yeah, just trial and error and perseverance. You got to get through it. You got to find what works for you. And I did it in the end, which means you can as well, which is good.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So talk a bit about how you're doing today. How do you feel? How you're managing through? And then, of course, what biggest advice that you have for others with the range of conditions?
So today's a kind of medium day, I'd say, for me. So I'm in pain, obviously, but today it's mainly focused around my upper body. My thighs are always in pain, which is a very strange one. My thighs to my hips, if that makes sense. So a lot of the times it conjugates in my joints, and that's why I'm getting a lot today. Everything kind of hurts, so I had to do a bit more stretching in the morning, a bit more yoga, and I have taken an extra painkiller today, because like I said, it's medium. I don't get too many high days, which I'm lucky for, because I take my precautions and I make sure everything's okay, but I still get some of those days where you're just in bed crying because it just hurts. But yeah, so it's a medium day. It's been good. I'm a bit dehydrated today because I had to take some diazepam yesterday, which is something I take on and off for my mental health, because I was really anxious yesterday. I just couldn't shake my anxiety. I couldn't focus on anything. I was so paranoid. So I had to take some of that, and that dehydrates you a bit. So I've been drinking a lot of water today. But yeah, I took a bath in the morning to relax everything. I did my yoga and everything. I meditated. Done a bit of work. Sounds very new agey, but it does help. Which doesn't help because I've got bright blue hair, but I'm not actually a hippie, promise. But yeah, it's just self-care.
And you know, it sounds like you said, you mentioned you take precautions. What types of things are you doing? Are you limiting the activities, the types of activities that you're doing?
Oh, yes, definitely. As much as it sucks, and it does, especially if you love something, you can't do certain things, and you should know your own limitations. Don't push yourself to the point you're going to hurt yourself, because especially if you have an underlying condition, it's going to take you a lot longer to heal. So I, like I said, I study musical theatre and I'm going into social work next year, but I love dance. Dance isn't something I'm very good at anymore, which sucks, but I can't. I remember I pushed myself, I believe it was last year. I was pushing myself because I didn't want to admit my limitations. And I pushed myself so much that I believe I was getting out of the car. I believe I was getting out of the car, and I was so drained because I was tired. My fibro was in so much pain, flared up and everything, because I was ignoring it, trying to just power through, and I just dropped like a sack of rocks. I dropped to the floor, and because I dropped to the floor while getting out of the car, I twisted my ankle bad, to the point where it swelled up to about 4 times its size, and we thought it was broken until we got it x-rayed. Luckily, I just pulled the ligaments, which is very painful, but very easily healed, as long as you don't do anything. So it's almost like the universe's way of saying, sit down, like calm down, take a few months, relax, notice how much better you feel, and realize, I've been pushing myself too much. And pushing yourself isn't a bad thing. Like if you like to achieve stuff, but it's also not bad to just relax. Like I was really worried that I'd be like lazy or slacking or I'd fail, but taking care of yourself really is important. Like you can't do anything if you're not 100%. Like there's no point trying to commit yourself to something if you're not okay in general anyway, because either way it's going to be, even if it's something that you can do, if you're not 100%, it's not going to be your best one. So yeah, to quit a lot of things, but you don't have to quit everything. Like I love swimming, and luckily swimming is the best thing. You can also just take it in little steps, so you can do little bits of what you like, or you can find new ways around it. Like I've got a friend who loves horse riding, but because of her condition, she can't horse ride anymore. So now she just, I believe, I can't remember if she's teaching or not, but she is going to a school of it, and she hangs around the horses. She does a few lessons here and there where she'll ride, but she doesn't do it as stringently as she would before. And it's the same with it. It's moderation. If you love something, you don't have to let it go, but you do have to realize doing it every day or every other day isn't going to be okay for you.
And that's great advice for folks. We all have expectations we place on ourselves, and knowing our limitations and still being able to enjoy things, perhaps not to the extent that we used to, but being able to continue in small ways. That's meaningful advice. So you mentioned that you are going into social work. Is that in any way related to your journey? Is that sort of what inspired you to do that? What's your motivation there?
Yeah, I actually had a social worker in my life when I was younger, because obviously I tried to attempt suicide, so a lot of that will come, especially in the UK. They'll get you a social worker to make sure everything's okay, because there's a reason you tried. So yeah, I actually got along really well with mine. She put me on the track of drama and things because I couldn't talk. I was so quiet. I was that kid in the room where you forget they're there and then they move and it makes you jump a little bit because you forgot they were there. But I got confident through drama, which is why I love it, which is why I studied it for so long. I found it a form of therapy, and I think a lot of people, if you need confidence, or you need to know how to present yourself in a certain way, or how to just publicly speak or hold yourself, even if you're just interested in English or society, sociology, psychology, it sort of encompasses everything, which sounds strange, but it is a sort of everything topic. Everything will be covered. Plays you can find in everything. Like if you want to learn about domestic abuse, if you want to learn about hard topics like that, or you want to be happy and do a fluff piece about rabbits and fairies, just, I don't know, it's a bit of everything. And that made me fall in love with it, which is because of my social worker. So I got to this point and I realized, because like I said, I'm in my final year, and I got to this point and I realized I can either go straight into teaching, which is what I want to do, or I could broaden my horizons, go into social work and branch off with that, which is what I decided to do, because I thought you can help a lot more people if you're in a position to do it. And I don't know, having someone there for me definitely helped shape me. And so that didn't have an agenda. Her job was just to make sure I was okay. She wasn't trying to make me better mentally. She wasn't trying to make me better physically. She was just there to make sure I was okay and get the best out of me. So I don't know. I just sort of made me realize, as I came to this point in my life, that I could do that. I could be that person for some kid or some adult, which is what I want to do. I want to help others. I want to make people realize that their voices are heard, their opinions are valid, they can do what they want. And yeah.
That's wonderful. So, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story. Your journey is a long one, and certainly I can hear the challenge and the frustration and the pain. But I also hear moments of tremendous, tremendous triumph, supported by wonderful folks. Your counselor when you were younger, the social worker when you were younger, your mother more recently, and I'm sure throughout your journey. I'm sure there were others along the way that helped you. And I can say that I am hopeful that by sharing your story, you will help others who are going through similar situations, who may have questions, may not know to advocate as much for themselves as you have, who may be pushing themselves too hard, as you mentioned earlier. And so hopefully they gain a little bit from hearing your words about your journey.
I hope so.
So thank you so much. Any final thoughts that you would like to share with individuals across the spectrum of challenges that they might be facing? What would you like to tell them?
It's a bit corny, but it's the same concept that, like, you'll hear it a lot and it will lose its meaning in a sense, but it is true in the sense that you can push through anything, and life does suck. Life seriously does suck. There'll be moments in your life where you'll just sort of think, what's the point? Like, I've been handed horrible cards. There's not been a point in my life where I've been truly happy, but you will be, if that makes sense. Like, I truly believe everyone has a form of happiness to find, and I'm still working on mine. Like, I'm very happy, but I know I can be happier. Like, I know I can find something more meaningful in my life, or I know I can help more people. And if that's what you want to do, then do it. Whatever you want to do, do it. And it sounds so simple, but I don't know, I've never been a person to just look for money. And if that's what you are, that's fine. But I think if you're struggling in life, find something you love and do it, and you'll be happy. As long as you have something that makes you smile, even if it's just once a week, even if it's just your dog to cuddle, even if it's just that one friend that sometimes texts you, you're still smiling. And I like that. And that got me through a lot. Like, I decided when I was around 12 that I was allowed to kill myself if I didn't smile within a week. And ever since then, I sort of realised there is stuff to be happy about. Like, it doesn't mean I'm not happy. Like, I can still be sad. I'm not ungrateful for it or anything, but realising that, I don't know, your emotions are valid, but that doesn't mean you have to listen to them. It's a lot easier.
No, that's and thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, hey, life is all of that, right? Life is the good and the bad, or the bad and the good.
Well, you have to have the downs to know what the ups are.
Exactly. Well, so we're at the end of our time. Emma-Louise, I want to just thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
I'd love to stay in touch. I look forward to hearing great things in the future about your social work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your